Hey everyone, I'm Tank Bard, and today we're going to go over how to play BattleCON via Spreadsheets. This document is available via the shortened URL shown at the top, bit.ly/baconsheet. You might wonder, why would I want to play this thing using spreadsheets instead of over camera using Skype or in Tabletop Simulator or any number of other methods. The main value that I think this method of doing things adds is that you can play completely asynchronously, meaning that you can make a move and your opponent makes a move. You don't have to be online at the same time. Maybe these things happen hours apart, and you can just slowly resolve the results of a duel over the course of like a week, instead of having to run into scheduling issues, which everyone tends to go straight into. So let's get into it. When you open up the main Bacon sheet, you'll be greeted with a screen that looks kind of like this. At the top, there will be a menu that says BattleCON. Go ahead and click on BattleCON, New Match, and it will request some information. Now, using this system requires that you have a Gmail account or a other email address that's associated with a Google account somehow. If you have such a thing, you can just type in your username here. If you need something longer, you're going to have to type in the full email address here. If anyone has ever tried to share a Google Doc with you using an email address and it has succeeded without any additional login, you're probably fine. But you may run into a few issues here, and the script will throw an error if it comes across anything like that. Anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and set up a game against myself. I'll be Pendros on one side and Lixis on the other. This input field supports all kinds of different things, so you can actually be random or even random devastation or random devastation beginner. I leave it to you to discover what options are available there. Anyways, this will be Pendros versus Lixis. We'll go ahead and hit submit, and some magic will create the sheet for us after a moment. Any moment now. One thing I will say is that Google Sheets tends to be a little bit finicky about this. Sometimes it takes, all of 5 seconds. Sometimes it takes 15 or 20. Just be patient. Anyways, when it's ready, you'll see a dialog like this saying that your sheet's been created. This will not automatically email your opponent telling them that this has been created. So they won't see anything in their inbox saying, hey, you've been challenged to a match by so-and-so. So you'll need to send them this link directly and let them know that you're trying to fight them. We'll go ahead and open this thing in a new window and close this one since we don't really need it anymore. On a completely new sheet, you'll see something like this. There will be a sheet called Beat 1 that looks kind of blank, but it has something that looks kind of like a 7-space board and some discards and some other fields we'll go over later. There will be a sheet called Bases, which contains all of the base sets that tend to be used in play. Normally, we're going to use this one in the top right. That is using Force Gauge and Dodge. This Alpha Bases one is configured for people who are used to the devastation of Indine's way of doing things, so special actions and dash. But most of us use this set at the top right these days. You'll see a blank-looking character reference, which is asking for some summaries, and 2 sheets containing all the information that you will need to play a particular character. We're going to go ahead and pull all this information onto our character reference by clicking on the name and selecting everything all the way down to the finishers. Now in Pendros's case, there's actually a little bit extra, so we're going to click that too. But you should have the first 5 columns of this sheet highlighted down to the point where you have all the information that you need. We'll copy that and paste it into the character reference where it says full player 1 summary here. We'll do the same thing for Lixis as well. One thing I'll note is that a bunch of these characters come with errata and clarifications. The ones that are bolded are received from official sources, usually either the character FAQ or communicating with Brad directly. I apologize that these aren't like thoroughly linked or anything. You'll just have to take my word for it, or don't. We'll pull all of Lixis's stuff into the character reference, and finally we'll select a set of bases. As mentioned before, we'll be using Force Gauge and Dodge for this match. Now that you've done all of that, you can actually delete most of the other sheets. Basis is now no longer useful, nor are the original character references, since all the information that you need should have been copied to the character reference. Once we're done with this, take the first 4 columns of each character, not including their finishers, just down to their unique bases, and copy those onto beat 1 where it says summary. We'll do this for both characters. Again, first 4 columns all the way down to the unique base, and you'll see something that looks like this. We'll set up the rest of the board as well. In this case, no one starts with any markers on the board. Pendros will represent with a P and Lixus will represent with an L. And you can also give your characters pretty colors if you really want to. Then it's time to set initial discards. You can do this by going to BattleCON and clicking Set Player Finisher and Discards. At this point, the sheet will ask you for permission to run scripts. This is the part that keeps all the magic in the background running. It'll ask you for permissions to manage your spreadsheets in Google Drive, which is to say this sheet specifically, and view and manage data associated with the application, which is for a feature that I'll show you in a moment. I trust myself, so I'll allow this. You'll see a dialog like this that asks for salted finisher name and salted attacks. Very briefly speaking, salted means that you're just going to add some arbitrary word to it that you can remember. This just keeps things a little bit random so that when we hide these things, they're not readily apparent to your opponent. For a more thorough breakdown of why this works, you can Google for the term salted MD5 hash, and it'll probably tell you what you need to know. We'll go ahead and pick continental divide, assuming that I can select the correct field. Type in continental divide, and we'll add some extra word to it. I'm going to use the word marinara. We'll also pick our first 2 discards. Special and grasp seem like reasonable discards here, and I feel like not taking extra damage during beat 1, so we'll go ahead and do Arboreal, and Lixus likes to burst sometimes, so we'll just do Dodge. I don't think we need to worry about other things. And again, we'll add salts to this. So, for example, Capital and Vanguard. I'll note again that this is just a random word, but you should probably not pick a word that appears on your character reference. For example, here, if I were to type tectonic special grasp and then reveal it, my opponent's going to ask, which did you mean, tectonic grasp or special grasp? And that's just not something you really want to deal with. So just make sure that you don't have any strange collisions there. Once we're ready, we'll go back to beat 1 and hit the button corresponding to which player we are. For Pendros is on the left, so we'll call him P1. You'll see a bunch of these hexets appear on the sheet, as well as some reminder text saying that these are the things that you hashed, and the sheet will remember 5 things for you, but you might want to write them down somewhere else just in case. Lixus can do much the same thing, but since Pendros has already locked in all his stuff, Lixus can go ahead and just do everything face up. We'll use Virulent Miasma, which we'll go ahead and copy onto the beat 1 so that its name and its stats match with the other columns. And then we'll pick some discards for her. In this case, we'll highlight the 2 discard things and hit unmerge. You can find this either from the icon that has 2 arrows pointing to each other or from Format, Merge Cells, Unmerge. And we'll just copy some cards into these slots. So let's see, Special and Dodge seem like reasonable discards. And we'll save Pruning as a combo move for next beat and discard Grasp because no one likes Grasp. All right. Now it's time for Pendros to reveal. In order to remember what these things represent, you can go to BattleCON, recall hashed phrases. This will go ahead and pull up all the information that you already entered into the sheet. And this information should not be visible to your opponent. So this is all private, and that's why the permissions for this sheet ask you for permission to manage data related to this application. I'll go ahead and pull this into the main sheet so I can actually remember what I'm trying to do with it. Then I will go ahead and replace things on these spots with the information that I have. So for example, continental divide was the finisher that I used, and I also used special grasp and arboreal dodge. Oops. You may wonder, why do we need all this if the sheet just keeps track of things for us? That's because the other player needs to trust that we're doing the right thing. We use MD5 to keep these secrets, and you can verify that these values are correct by going into any external MD5 hasher and simply typing in your input. You'll see that the value that we got here, 4C7666, matches what we have over here, at least up to the first 8 hexes, and it's pretty hard to get something that will match those 8 but not the others. Same for the other 2. I leave it to you to verify those for yourselves. We're almost ready. We'll go to BattleCON, Setup, and this will make a bunch of magic happen. First of all, you'll notice that the cards that are in our discards have now been shaded out so that you can see at a glance which cards are available to your opponent and which ones aren't. This effect gets duplicated on the character reference, so you can sit here and stare at all the full text for all the pairs you need to, and come up with what you want to do to beat your opponent. The second thing you'll notice is that the board has been copied to the bottom. This should be thought of as an after shot. So reading from top to bottom, you have the board position at the beginning of the beat, and then some things happen. You look at discards, you'll play some moves, you'll go through your attack activation and everything, and at the end, you'll have maybe a completely different board position. One other thing that I neglected is that since Pendros has extra information, it can be useful to copy that extra information onto the main sheet, so that you can just look at it very easily. Now it's time to actually play. So Pendros will select something. What does Pendros want to do? Let's go with a polymorphed haymaker. Why not? If you don't feel like thinking of a random word to add to your attack pair, the script also provides a 16-character random string at the bottom, right under the text box, so you can just use that, and it's just as good. On clicking P1 move, or P2 move as the case may be, you'll see the value for this thing pop into one of the boxes on the sheet, and some reminder text telling you what it was you just did. Lixis will probably do mostly the same thing. In her case, we'll go for a Vine Lance, because why not? Once again, BattleCON, set attack pair, Vine, Lance, and we'll add this bunch of text. Again, you don't have to use this thing if you don't want to. You can always go to an external site and generate the correct values for yourself. Of course, the problem then is that the sheet won't remember it for you, so take your pick. Now it's time to ante. We'll go ahead and say that the characters both pass. If you're the first person anteing, I suggest putting a pipe and 2 question marks just so your opponent knows that if they ante, you reserve the right to do something else. In this case, Pendros is just going to also pass. Oh, no, wait, Pendros doesn't pass because Pendros has real antes. Let's see. So there are no face-up markers on the board, so none of them activate. There's no face-down markers on the board, so none of them flip face-up. And then he's going to stick something somewhere. Let's just say he's going to stick a lightning storm in this spot over here on space 6. Now remember, this is the board situation beforehand, and this is afterwards. So we'll go ahead and put this on the after set. And we'll go to BattleCON, set attack pair, and do lightning storm. Instead of clicking P1 move or P2 move, make sure you have the correct cell labeled or selected, and then hit current cell. This will drop a value into that cell, and you can also color it to indicate who owns that value in case you have multiple players with markers on hand. Just as a courtesy, I also find it's useful to go ahead and declare in the ante box that you've gone and done something. In this case, Lixis probably doesn't have anything to say to that, so she'll pass again, and Pendros will finally pass. Now it's time to reveal attack pairs. In this case, Pendros used Polymorphed Haymaker, as recorded here. Oops. I'll get this right one of these days. And Lixus used something else which has been kept in our value over here. It looks like we have a clash, and Polymorphed doesn't really steal anything. Polymorphed actually does steal something. We'll go ahead and deal with this now. In the event that you need it, go ahead and pick up one, make a copy of the start of beat row right above all the other text that says reveal. This is a place where you can put things that require reveal step timing. Most characters don't have it, so it's not in there by default, but sometimes it becomes useful. In this case, Polymorph, or rather, Pendros copies Vine's maximum range due to Polymorphed. Since we have an extra value, you can also put it into the spot underneath these places where your stats have already been calculated out. This will automatically add that value to your printed stats. You can do this with any of these boxes and even use negative numbers if you really like. In any case, a clash has happened, so we'll go to BattleCON Clash. Some text will appear that lets us get ready for the next step in this clash. I also like to drag extra values over into these things to keep the narrative moving. In this case, Pendros is probably feeling pretty safe with a polymorphed strike. And Lixus probably doesn't care. I mean, both strikes will hit anyways, right? Lixus misses if she uses strike and Pendros bursts. So shot's probably the safe choice. It's unclashable anyways. Let's just go with that. So Pendros is going to use a polymorph strike since it will hit the full board. And Lixus will use a Vine shot. When both players are ready, they can simply reveal. We'll recall hash phrases since I can't remember what this random string was. And there's no more clash. So now we'll go ahead and play out the rest of the beat. At start of beat, Pendros has a polymorphed movement. So Pendros moves to space 4 because he wants that full board coverage. And we'll go ahead and move him to that space on the after board, which will be our current board state. Then he's going to hit for damage. Lixus isn't stunned, but we'll go ahead and decrease her life total over here. And Lixus is going to retaliate. And pull him onto this mysterious looking marker, just because she can. Pendros would discard an extra card with his attack here, so let's go ahead and pick that for him. Haymaker's still in his hand, but Burst is kind of useless when he's cornered like this, especially with Lance in play. So we'll go ahead and say that Pendros discards Burst due to Lixus's UA. You can make this easy on yourself by simply adding Burst to his attack pair. This will just mean that that extra card will go to discard along with Strike. Once you've verified with your opponent that everything looks okay, you can go ahead and continue to the next beat. Click BattleCON, next beat, and a bunch of things will be taken care of for you. The sheet will be cleared to its original state, the bottom board state will be copied up to the top, as you can see here, and your new discards will be shaded out. Then you just continue. Oh, right, and the force gauges, if you're playing with those, are updated appropriately. Then you just continue until someone is dead or wins or whatever. One thing I will note is that if you play with force gauge and you use special to give yourself an extra force, if you're using, you'll have to adjust these values manually. So for example, if Pendros were to anti-force gauge power here, he'd give himself +1 power, but he should also decrease his force by 2. Similarly, if Lixis ended up playing something like a special dodge here, she'll have to add her extra force manually and also take it away from the force timer manually from the top. Again, that only really applies if that's the way you're playing it. You'll also note that Burst has been pulled into Pendros' discard as advertised. Anyways, that's basically how you play with Bacon Sheets. If you have any questions, please find Tank Bard on the official level 90, or sorry, RNGesus Wept on the official level 99 Discord and Tank Bard on the unofficial one. Or just go in there and ask for help with Bacon Sheets. There's enough people who play that can probably help you out. Or, give you a fight. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy.